Nigel Farage boycotts BBC over question time blow up. Reform UK leader calls the question time audience rigged and dishonest. And I did actually see some stuff about this where, see how obviously they have people in the audience that are meant to be just everyday people from the street that get to ask questions to our politicians. Well, it turns out that all the ones that were raging at Farage were plants. That's allegedly. Allegedly, one was like a BBC director. He actually works for the BBC. The other was like a chief like protester for some Palestinian movement or something like that. So basically, they specifically selected people that would go right after Farage. Right, that's at least that's the claim. Nigel Farage said he is boycotting the BBC as he accused the broadcaster of bias over a special episode of Question Time in which the Reform UK leader was barraged with questions on immigration, healthcare, and racist and homophobic remarks made by campaign activists. The Reform UK leader took part in the half-hour question and answer session with a live studio audience Friday evening, where he was pestered about a Channel 4 news expose into controversial comments made by Clacton campaigners for his party. And it turns out there was a little bit of schemy stuff going on there, because one of the guys that was allegedly a campaigner, it turned out he was a hired actor, at least allegedly. They alleged that he was actually a hired actor and he called Rishi Sunak the P word, and he was walking around being really, really racist and being filmed. But then people have looked into it and it turns out that he's actually an actor. Allegedly. Allegedly. Farage, who is running to be an MP in Clacton, has disowned the comments, calling them appalling, and questioned whether the man filmed by Channel 4 was an actor. He was asked in Friday's Q&A why his party attracts racists and extremists, some of the best people, if you ask me, and he was challenged on his stance on immigration and questioned over candidates the party had been forced to drop for making offensive remarks. And you should definitely stop that. Stop playing by their rules. Oh, this man said something offensive. The other parties say offensive things all the bloody time, and they never get told to drop candidates. It's only ever the right-wing parties that get expected to do that. Just turn around and go, yeah, he did, and what he said was based. Right, and then just don't drop them. Stop playing by their rules, because they're set up to make sure that they always win and you always lose. In a tweet on Saturday, Farage called the Question Time audience rigged and said he was refusing to appear on the Sunday with Laura Koinsberg show unless the broadcaster apologises. I've just been invited to appear on Laura Koinsberg, Farage said. I'm refusing until the BBC apologises for their dishonest Question Time audience. He also charged that the broadcaster has behaved like a political actor throughout this election. I mean, as they do. Everybody's like, the BBC's neutral. They're the neutral. No, they're not. Reform will be campaigning vigorously to abolish the licence fee, he added. Now, that will definitely get you votes. The licence fee's a joke, by the way. Just ignore the letters. Just ignore the letters. That's it. BBC presenter Fiona Bruce said audience represented a mix of political sentiments. It emerged on Saturday that 3 Reform UK candidates have been dropped by the party for making offensive comments after being criticised by Farage in Friday's Question Time session. The 3 are Edward Oakenfool, who is standing in Derbyshire Dales, Robert Lomas in Barnsley North, and Leslie Lilly in Southend East and Rochford, according to media reports. And that's the end of the article. Now, there was a little bit of fuckery that was going on with that. People were digging into it. I believe it was Poll, actually, that were digging into it. And fucking, when they get their teeth into something, they get their teeth into something. And they actually managed to pull up, they pulled up stuff about that guy being an actor. They managed to track down that one of the sort of grey bearded guy was actually a BBC director, and they also found the other guy who apparently was he's like very high up in like the Palestinian protest movement and stuff like that. So basically, the people that were selected were people that were going to directly bash Farage, and they didn't do it for any of the other people that were appearing on Question Time, because obviously the establishment is against Farage. Now, I've had my problems with Farage in the past. We don't like each other very much. We had a little bit of a moment in the hallway back in December on GB News, and people felt the tension in the air and stuff like that. So even though I don't get on with the guy, I do think it would be a net positive for him to be in Parliament. Having him being there on TV where he can directly address, the British people and slowly start to swing them over to his side, and he gets to go into Parliament and expose all the absolute nonsense that they've been doing for bloody decades now. I still think it's a net good. So even though I don't get on with the guy, I do wish him the best of luck, because at the end of the day, having Farage in there is still a net positive.